Melanie definitely did this scene for the girls and gays. It was amazing. I loved it. Hi there everyone, it's Abner sometimes, and sometimes I apparently like taking years off of YouTube.
Sorry about that, guys.
Well, I'm back. A lot has changed, and I'm glad that you clicked on my video to watch this little guy. So from the title, you can probably tell, today we're going to dive into Melanie Martinez's K-12 film. I recently saw it. The date was released about 2 days ago, I think it was. I had the privilege of listening to the music in theaters and all that fun stuff with some Melanie Martinez fans inside the theater as well. Let me start off by saying two things before I do get into this video. One, I have been a really long Melanie Martinez fan, so obviously I'm gonna enjoy it as opposed to someone that hasn't. And two, I am wearing a Halloween shirt, of course. Spooky season is just around the corner. Halloween is my favorite time of year, so obviously once I felt that breeze, I'm like, oh, here's Halloween. So this is my first time doing kind of like a review video or just talking about the film itself. I'm not a movie critic. I am not a film student. I just went to go see the movie and wanted to tell you guys what I thought about it. So I think the first thing that was the most important thing that when I saw the movie was I went into it thinking it was like an original film, or like there was a beginning, middle, end in a sense of a strong storyline, but it really wasn't that like that. What it really was is kind of like a collection of music videos from every single song on her album. I think every single song of her album, all 13 songs, spread out into a huge 90-minute plot, and in between those there was kind of like little sections, little storylines and side plots tying in those music videos together. So that's something that did take me by surprise. Don't go in thinking you're gonna go watch a straight through film. I personally didn't even know that every single song was gonna have its own music video in there, but as a fan of Melanie Martinez myself, it was a really pleasant thing. I was able to hear all her music. However, I will say, if you're not into Melanie Martinez's music, or if you just hate her or something of that sort, probably not the movie for you. It is definitely a music-based movie, so you're gonna hear a lot of her, of course. So the way this movie pretty much starts off is that you meet, of course, Crybaby, Melanie Martinez's character, straight from the top. Her and her friend Angelia are gonna go to this new school, and they don't want to go. The first thing that we see is, them going into this really cute pink bus. Already you see this Melanie Martinez aesthetic that she's had in the past. What I think is really interesting though now, after the whole Crybaby phase that we saw, all the music videos, which I think focused on a really, since it was Melanie Martinez's first album and she had this whole more toddler-like aesthetic, it was really more just like a birth of Crybaby. I think that's kind of like a symbolism behind it. And now we're in that second stage of Crybaby growing up, which I think is really symbolic with Melanie Martinez growing up from her freshman album to now her sophomore album. So we see Crybaby going to school now because she's all grown up. She's going to go through a new phase in her life, and she doesn't want to do that. I don't know if that's me overanalyzing it, but that's what I got out of it. So right from the start, Wheels on the Bus. Ooh, Wheels on the Bus. Let's talk about this one. Wheels on the Bus is probably my favorite, or my second favorite song, at least, from the album. It's just beautiful. It's a really cool, I think it was a really smart idea to start with that song. Obviously, it just made sense as well in in order of the title. They go on the bus, and from this moment is when you realize that, oh, this isn't, it's a fantasy type film, it's not like, oh, there were just students going. Right when we get into the film, you see Blue Boys, inside the bus, giving you a sense of fantasy, and then you also see Melanie Martinez and her friend Angelia. Their eyes just turn black, and apparently they're mystical creatures, I guess. They have special powers that no one else has. So right from that moment, I was like, oh, this isn't like a normal people film. This is like a fantasy film, and the song just starts. The choreography is awesome. They do this kind of fancy armor. I love it. I dig it. My heart was racing because that song was just beautiful. And then the bus goes down into the ocean, and that's when I knew, oh, what the hell? This isn't normal. So after that, I kept my mind open. I'm like, cool, it's that kind of movie. So right when they get to the school, of course, Crybaby and Angelita are late, and of course you see this really mean teacher, and that's when you kind of get a sense of the feel like, oh, there's something weird about the staff at this school, or the whole time, even since like before they got on the bus, Melanie just didn't want to go to the school, so it's evident that, you know, shit was about to go down. Cool. And then so Crybaby and Angelita now go into the classroom. They're late. Class fight starts playing, and pretty much you're introduced to kind of like the whole classroom setting. You meet Kelly, one of the popular girls, and you know, you get stares, and it goes through the classroom. You kind of get a sense that the Crybaby character is like not so popular and stuff. Really, I think it's a great metaphor for kind of just, not even just a metaphor, I guess it's kind of just like a representation of how school is, and really, you know, work environments, school environments, and things like that as well. Now, during the classroom scene, there's this really powerful moment where they all rise up to do the Pledge of Allegiance, but you see the African American boy stay seated, which is really, you know, something that was really I'm pretty sure many people like myself appreciated. Melanie being a voice for it, you know, with this whole controversy. It was really a moment, I believe, you know, for Black Lives Matter, and that was something really beautiful that was I was really surprised that it was just so towards the beginning of the movie. I was shook. Like, it was such an awesome moment, and of course you have the teacher get pissed off and call like the guards to security to go ahead and take him away, and through the scene it's really powerful. You do see him like struggle to fight and stay. He was definitely very he stood his ground. However, there was still kind of like that the actor really input like a sense of like, I'm like kind of nervous, but you know, this is what I believe in, and that was something that was really beautiful, and I applaud Melanie for adding that in the film. Then you have Angelita and Crybaby going into a sleeping bag with their magical like mystical powers. Then you have Kelly putting a snake inside of their sleeping bag and all that good stuff. And then Crybaby gets a note that I think it said like Kelly's gonna kill Melanie, not Melanie, but Crybaby and such. And then one of my favorite scenes of the movie happens. They're outside, and Kelly confronts Crybaby, and then I guess oh yeah, shit gets crazy, and then Kelly just slashes Crybaby's arm, and it's bleeding, and this is when kind of like shit starts going down. Crybaby uses her crazy witch powers. I'm gonna call them witch powers. She's like flying in the air, and she's like choking the crap out of Kelly with her braids. All while their teacher is like watching on this little monitor, and I think that was the funniest part for me of the movie, when she's looking at the screen and you just see freaking Crybaby floating in the air strangling Kelly, and it was funny to me at least. From there, Melanie, I gotta stop calling her Melanie, Crybaby gets sent to the principal office, and then principal starts playing. You learn that principal's kind of an asshole. So the song, you know, kind of just is about Melanie Martinez picking up the phone, calling the principal, and really kind of just like talking down on him. And I feel like that is really symbolic as kind of meaning, you know, stick up to the man and all that good stuff, all that hippie stuff. Now, when we meet the principal in the principal scene, we're kind of introduced with a character, Miss Harper, formerly Mr. Harper, a male to female transgender teacher, and that's when you learn the teacher's an asshole and he's really like unforgiving. She kind of just goes up there and is like, hey, like, you know, I love my job, but I would love to stay here, but I want to be dressed as Miss Harper now, formerly Mr. Harper. And the principal kind of just laughs, and the teacher that was inside of Melanie's class laughs, and they ridicule her like, oh, a woman and so forth. And they kind of just like fire her. And it was a really powerful moment for the trans community to get some representation inside of that scene. It sheds a light upon, you know, a real issue that we have. So that was another moment where when I was watching the movie, I was like, oh my god, like, this is awesome. She was a really cute teacher, all blue hair and all that. I love the character. She seemed so genuine, and really that's for people that are anti-trans men and women, you kind of see it through an understanding point of view, like, hey, this woman she's just doing her job. She's a good person. She likes her students. Just, you know, let her be. So I'm glad Melanie added that scene inside of the film. Now, when Principal starts playing, This is one of my favorite looks in the film so far. Let's take a look, shall we? It's pretty badass. And this is the first time I see like Melanie Martinez getting it. Like she's dancing. The choreo was great. I'm like, yes, like, or like I said yes like 20 times in like the theater during that night. Cool. And after we meet this a-hole of a principal and all that, the song plays and so forth. We go ahead and it's kind of random. I guess the scene just cuts and if I remember correctly, and they kind of just go back to the classroom, and then we realize that it's show and tell, and of course Melanie Martinez's song "Show and Tell" does start. A little bit of a trigger warning if you're scared of dolls. You might want to fast forward that scene. But yeah, show and tell starts playing. Pretty much you kind of see like this doll of Crybaby, the Crybaby character, getting pulled by strings and all that stuff. And it kind of goes back and forth with the class, kind of just like forcing the doll to like perform for them. They're really greedy about it. No tea, no shade. I kind of think that's kind of like Melanie, how she felt when her fans kept harassing her for the album. So I think that can be implemented a lot with real life thing, you know. You're kind of out for display and all that stuff, and you feel like you're being used and such. So I think that's kind of like the undertones of what that song meant, you know, being used by society. It's all show and tell, but they never really want you. They only want what you can offer and stuff. Deep. Cool. And then after show and tell, I guess everyone kind of goes for like the Crybaby doll and like they attack her. I don't recall like in the back of my mind right away, but pretty much she's in a sense broken, so they're gonna take her to the nurse's office. Foreshadowing, nurse's office is probably gonna play right. Angelia ends up fixing her with the crazy witchy powers, and then nurse's office starts playing. This was a really cool sequence inside of the film. What I think this song kind of meant, slash video, was really mental illness, you know, kind of just not being taken seriously. Like they kind of disregard her feelings and they're gonna inject her, they're gonna numb her feelings and such. So that was a pretty powerful, I think, you know, backstory of that song. It was pretty cool. I like that one as well. So after a nurse's office, Melanie and Angelia go to this room, and this like magical door pops up, and this like celestial figure comes out with ears, super pretty, super wise. And like this is the first time I like, I guess, learned that yes, there were magical creatures, but there was something beyond that, which was kind of cool. Melanie and Angelia were like, hey, we hate it here, can we go? And then that like special being was like, no, you have to stay here and such, which was pretty cool. A little random, but it added on to that, like answering questions in regards to like, what the hell are they? Why did their eyes turn black? I guess, you know, they're just some kind of celestial being that's more than human, and you know, all that good stuff. And then after they see that like celestial being, they go into this room, and I guess I see all these ghosts dancing. Now, this is something that really confused me. I think earlier on in the film, like after they get to the school for the first time, they see a ghost or something. Now they're seeing ghosts again. I don't think this kind of had to do anything with the plot. I don't recall if they symbolized anything, or if they were like representing something. If any Melanie fans or anyone that saw the film like can explain what that was to me, these ghosts, feel free to tell me in the comments. I would love to hear about that. So then we go ahead and go into drama club. So when we get into drama club, we kind of just go into the theater, of course. It's going to be a drama class. And the theater teacher kind of just tells everyone, oh, everyone open up your scripts where you'll be in a side, which is kind of funny. You're like, oh, shit, like, okay. And Melanie is like, no, I would like another role kind of thing. And then there's like douchebag turns around, your kind isn't worthy of this, or something like that. So I think what this song like paralleled to, or like represented, was, you know, inequality within like, you know, female and male and so forth, and anything in between. How like the male was dominant and they were the superior ones, and everyone else was kind of like, oh, like you're gonna be in a side. So it was a really cool sequence in the film where Melanie just got on stage and was like, F you. And like at the end of drama club, they like kill the principal. So I was
like, oh, whoa.
So they kill the principal, and they bury him and stuff. After that, it just cuts to a scene where they're playing tennis, like sitting down, like magic tennis. And then they go ahead and I guess they I think the ball's in like a bubble and it just goes flying away somewhere, and it goes to this boy that ends up being like a love interest for Crybaby. I forgot his name. Darn, I can't think of it. If you remember what his name is, he's the one that's going to be the love interest for the film. He kind of sees the ball being bubbled up, and this is like, oh, foreshadowing. This is going to be something that's going to be significant later. And then after that, they go ahead and go into the locker rooms, and Strawberry Shortcake starts playing. This was a really beautiful song about like body image and the standards of all that stuff. So it was really like you know, talking about victim blaming and body issues in society. So that was a really beautiful scene in the movie as well. It definitely was a really nice song. It wasn't one of my favorites, but of course the underlying of that was beautiful. Definitely a really strong one. So I like that part of the movie. And then after this Strawberry Shortcake scene is over, you see Angelita and friend of Crybaby walking up the steps, and it appears that Angelita has a stain on the back of her dress, a red stain. We know what that is, right? So it goes into the scene of, you know, just searching for kind of like a tampon and stuff. So it's a little it's kind of cool. It really shows. I don't think Melanie did that to be weird. I just think it just did it to show, you know, like someone growing up, and that's kind of like, I guess, what that, you know, signified and stuff. And then Angelita, poor thing, was like using toilet paper because someone had a tampon, which is pretty sad. But you know, I wouldn't know. But that's probably something that happens in the real world. After that, I guess the nurse goes in, like a really mean nurse, and she bumps into Crybaby, and they Crybaby and the squad walk out, and then she kind of pulls out a tampon, like, oh, like, I got you, Angelita, kind of thing. And it goes back to the nurse inside of the toilet, and I guess Crybaby stole her tampon, which was really sad but really funny. After that, we're taken into the lunch cafeteria area, and then this is when Kelly and the popular girls kind of just call Crybaby over, and they're kind of like, hey, like, you know, kind of join our squad, this and that. What I think the song signifies was really just people pretending to be your friend even though they're not lunchbox friends, you know. They just want to have lunch with you almost. And it's this really funny scene where Crybaby starts his food fight, and while the food fight's going on, this is when the song starts happening. Another really funny scene in the film. After this whole song passes, Crybaby ends up going to the restroom. I believe she goes after one of the girls that was in Kelly's squad, the popular girls. Something that's really interesting is that there's a moment where you see her eyes turn black, so you kind of go like, oh, this is one of Melanie and Angelita's kind of people, kind of stuff. So it really shows you, again, adding on to that lunchbox theme, that these popular girls were kind of just asking her to go in and stuff, even though they probably didn't really want to be her friend, but they wanted her to be one of them instead. So it zooms in on Crybaby kind of in the stall, and you see the other girl just throwing up orange juice, and then it goes into Orange Juice, the song, which really was one of the most beautiful moments of the song. You kind of see Crybaby go into this orange tree field and stuff, and so yeah, it kind of goes to the theme of bulimia and, you know, self-acceptance and all that stuff. So it was a really powerful scene in the movie. It really almost, you know, brought tears to my eyes because you know, there's a lot of things that go through your mind when you're watching that scene. Now during Orange Juice, Crybaby says, your body isn't perfectly perfect, everyone wants what the other one's working, which is like really what summarizes the whole song and scene. It was a really beautiful scene. I loved it. Now during this scene inside of the bathroom, the girl comes out, and then Crybaby approaches her. She kind of just stares at her, and really what happens is kind of, the scene freaks me out because it's so literal, but it's so awesome that Melanie, of course, her Tim Burton like mind, input in the movie, pretty much Crybaby just like yanks out her eyes, and at this point I'm like about to barf in my seat. And then the other girl rips her eyes off as well, and they have their eyeballs in their hand and they swap eyes. And I think what that meant was like, here, have a look at what I see, you know, see life through my eyes for a sec, or look at you with my eyes for a sec. And it was a really beautiful scene, but so terrifying because you see the eyeballs, and it was like, oh. And after Orange Juice starts, this is when Melanie was with the other girl that was kind of her kind and took her back out into the cafeteria. Now Kaylee rats out Crybaby when they go back to the cafeteria. We have these giant bunny heads that are kind of like the, I guess, securities of the school, and they take away Melanie, and I guess they give her detention. Now let's talk about detention. This scene was probably one of my favorite scenes that had me going crazy. It's inside of the movie theater. Melanie definitely did this scene for the girls and gays. It was amazing. I loved it. Pretty much, they were kind of just put on display inside of there in this like case, and they were just kind of being like, they were entertaining like these kids, I suppose. I guess the song Detention kind of just deals with, you know, having to pretend everything is okay. I don't know. It was a really cool song. The choreography was amazing. This is when I was like, dang, Melanie can dance. I loved it. I was so hyped. I know you can see like the mood in my mood changed. Like I absolutely love that song. It was awesome. I'm just gonna show you just like a tiny snippet of Detention because I absolutely love this. Here, freak out with me. Let's watch it. Incredible. Alright. So after Detention, now things get a little dark. They're in like a science class. It's like chemistry or something. And Angelita is kind of just like, you know, eyeing with the teacher that's teaching, and the teacher's kind of eyeing Angelita. This scene can definitely be really disturbing. It goes into the topic of, you know, pedophilia, adults grooming young students until they grow up, you know. But it's really real, and it tackles a real issue. So this is something that really was like, it was a little disturbing to watch if you think about if it apply it to real life, but it was a much needed conversation starter that I'm happy that Melanie went ahead and touched base upon. So towards the end of that scene, or during the whole scene, you have the teacher and Angelita kind of just flirting and stuff. The teacher asks Angelita to stay after class, and then it starts getting weird. Then he turns her into this little doll, and then he's gonna like, you know, play with her with like this little like, I think butterfly knife to dissect her open, which is, I think, again really symbolic. He held her down. Now she's just a doll to him. He's gonna play with her, manipulate her, you know, break her apart, all that stuff. But then you know, Crybaby comes in. I don't remember the film if she forgot something or she just felt something was off and came back and rescued Angelita, which is really nice. You know, you see Angelita like, crap, you know, I shouldn't have done that kind of thing. So again, a really cool song, and I really enjoyed that scene in the movie. After teacher spat, you know, all goes well. Crybaby kills the teacher, which is amazing. They do leave. So one of the saddest parts happens. High School Sweetheart is the next song that plays, which is super cute, but I forgot to mention, actually I don't have like a script really, so I'm kind of doing this all by the top of my head. I forgot to mention that after they killed the principal, I guess the principal's son randomly shows up. You can tell that he's kind of just still being an a-hole like his dad and such. So there's this scene where that, you know, when I mentioned earlier that boy that when Melanie and Angelita and her squad were playing tennis, the little tennis ball flew to that boy, which is later be Crybaby's love interest. This is the part. So the boy is slipping little notes into I gotta stop saying Melanie, into Crybaby's locker, and she opens it up and reads the note. It's like a little love letter. After that, the principal's son kind of goes to Crybaby and is like, hey, like, did you get my letter kind of thing? And Crybaby's like, oh my gosh, like, that was you? All while that other guy that's Crybaby's love interest is over here, which is really heartbreaking, but that happens. And so their school dance is happening, and pretty much the principal's son asks Crybaby to the dance, and Crybaby says yes. However, there was a scene inside in the film that was kind of crazy. I guess the principal's son was like looking at the cameras, you know, well, because there's cameras in the principal's office, and he was looking at them, and he saw, you know, Melanie and her squad, Crybaby and her squad, planning an escape to escape the school and help everyone escape during the dance. So, you know, the principal's son kind of has a plot in mind. High School Sweethearts was one of the coolest scenes in regards to like scenery and choreography. I was really impressed of this, and her outfit was bomb. Here's a photo if you want to take a look. I really enjoyed that. So after that, you know, they're at the dance, and pretty much what happens is the principal's son kind of locks everyone into the auditorium and forces them to dance, and they're just dancing and they can't stop throughout the whole film. the whole film, the whole scene. Crybaby's character is not inside there though. She's actually kind of planning a devious plan to lock away the principal's son, who is trying to prevent Crybaby's plans from happening. So Crybaby kind of uses her crazy witch powers to turn into this other female, and she kind of takes the principal's son into I guess the officer room or whatever, and pretty much she locks him in there, and she kind of steps out, and he's like, she runs out, and she goes back and locks the doors. Everyone escapes as now we're getting to the last few minutes of the film. Everyone's running out, and then the principal's son is about to get out. So Melanie finds her that guy. I need to get his name. If you guys know his name, comment it. Her love interest. They kind of everyone's leaving and escaping. They're kind of the two left behind. So like Melanie, Crybaby's like, what do I do? And then like I mentioned earlier, like that tennis ball in the bubble, kind of like, I'm like, oh, that's gonna come out later. This is where it comes out. The guy's like, remember that bubble thing? And so Melanie uses her crazy witchy powers, creates this bubble around the school, and like the school goes up into the air. They jump off, and the school like poofs into like this magic pink powder in the air. And in the last few moments, everyone's running out, and then remember that giant portal that comes where that weird whimsical creature lady came out? It comes back, the door opens, people start escaping, and then Melanie kind of stays behind, and they're like, hey, Melanie, are you coming? Darn, so my camera did die, but we are back. So, like I mentioned, towards the end of the film, I found out his name. His name is Ben. So they're running towards that little exit door, like I mentioned before, and they ask Crybaby, are you coming with? And Melanie leaves us with a freaking cliffhanger. The movie just stops, and I was livid.
Are you coming?
But overall, it was a great film. I enjoyed it. I guess the only two things that I would say that I probably would critique on, one was, now my girl Melanie could dance, sing, produce, direct, design, but her acting was a little weird. But I mean, I've heard a lot of reviews or people tweet that the acting was a little off. However, I do feel like it kind of works with the Crybaby character, The Crybaby character is really shy and to herself and a little awkward because she is in, school. So I feel like that really does work out with her. And then the only other thing is that, obviously she did not write a musical, but she did write songs that were incorporated in the film. So unlike a musical where it like 100% sequentially fits, this Crybaby, some of the music videos felt a little random. They were kind of just stuck in there. Like Melanie really manipulated as much as she could in order to make it work. But that was really the only two things I would say would be the acting was a little funky, and then just the sequential order of the videos as well. I recommend this movie to anyone that is a Melanie fan. Of course, this movie is free and on YouTube with no ads. That is incredible for an artist to do. I really applaud Melanie for doing that. This film did some amazing, touched on a lot of sensitive topics and such, and yeah. So I hope that you guys did enjoy this little, not even critique really, kind of just, I guess what I talked about was like what I felt like a lot of the things in this movie represented. Catch Wheels on the Bus and Detention non-stop playing in my car this whole week. But yeah, I hope to make more videos like this again. Yeah, give me your thoughts, comments, subscribe of course if you like what you see, and I will see you guys then. Like I always say, another day, another sleigh.